Good morning, gamers. Me and Tyler here for another amazing Final Fantasy set review, the first of its kind. As you may or may not know, me and Tyler have been hoarded, shackled down here by the Mecha Games owners and employees. So we are the leading minds of whatever this game was called.
We've literally not left this room since the last
Yeah.
set review, just playing Final Fantasy games.
There's a third person in here. We killed and consumed him for sustenance.
Had that happen.
Any questions you have about lore, ask Tyler. Justice will give you his phone address, phone number, social security numbers, and another secret option. Without further ado, let's get into it. And before we start, and don't forget, if you want any of these cards, don't forget to go to mechagames.ca and order them from our lovely store here down in St. Catharines. And away we go. So first of all, set review breakdown. We got card cycles, cards 5 or more usually, that kind of have a theme put together with all of them in mind. The high interest cards that, me and Tyler feel have a good chance of, shaking up meta, be it in like standard or modern, Pioneer if that format existed. Medium interest, kind of the middle of the pack, might make some waves, might not. Low interest, kind of they might see play but not change that much about decks or do much. Cards with the potential, these are more kind of loose cannons. We don't know if they'll see play, they'll do something huge, kind of just funnel away, or they might need more cards in the future to make them be realized. Package deals, these are kind of cards that kind of work together to get a job done. Kind of the idea behind like Kindred or stuff like that you can kind of think of. And then personal pickups, the cards that me and Tyler are going to get for ourselves. Before we get in, how do you feel about the set, Tyler?
It's got a lot in it. It's kind of hard. Sagas are kind of hard to evaluate. There's a lot of those in this set.
Yeah.
It's gonna come down to some play testing. Like if we think back to something like Fable of the Mirror Breaker, it's a card that was on nobody's radar and then became banned in Standard and a staple of Modern Legacy even today.
Was it in staple and Pioneer? No.
Yeah, Pioneer as well, but that's not a real format.
As I said recently.
But yeah, a staple in basically every mainstay competitive format. Even will pop up in sometimes CDH lists, very, very rarely, like just Magda, but like a very all-around powerful card. So we might see some echoes of that, but it's kind of hard to tell because you have to take the sum of its parts, but like, is it going to be very slow ticking up? It's kind of hard to tell. And lots of legendaries as well, which are sometimes hard to include in constructed decks, just because of the natural legendary limitations, but a lot going on. I think we're a bit more than the average standard set as well, so there's going to be a lot to
300 cards? I think usually it's around 250 if I had a gander.
Yeah, I think it's 260 to 280, usually somewhere there, so we're a good like 20 or 40 cards over, so there's a ton to get through. There's going to be a lot to test with. Yeah, it's going to be exciting.
All right. I'm interested. The sagas, saga creatures seem really interesting. Hopefully, one of my favorite decks, Jund gets some kind of life to it. But we shall see. Hopefully this doesn't, do too much damage to the formats, gives us some cool, interesting ideas. And then, sadly, after Edge of Eternities, it only gets worse from here. So
we'll see what comes.
Yeah.
Take it as it
But
hits us.
Lorwyn, one set closer, Tyler.
Every set closer to Lorwyn and Strixhaven.
All right, things to look forward to. All right, card cycles. Here we have 5 beautiful lands. So there's a reason why they're at a 90-degree angle. They all come in tapped. That is also because they have an adventure side to them. So for those who do not know what adventure is, if you cast a card with its adventure first, it becomes exiled, and then you can play it for its kind of full version, the essentially bigger side of it, at a later point. So
you do it the same turn.
Yeah.
Unlike something like Plot.
Yeah, Plot was a thing. So, without further ado, the white one, Faith and Grief. For 5 mana, little expensive. Return up to 2 target artifacts and/or enchantment cards from your graveyard to your hand. 5 mana, a little bunch, comes in town.
Yeah, at that kind of rate, it's got to put something into play for me. I think a lot of these are, except the red and the black one, are really high costed, and they're going to be too little too late, not really impacting the board super heavily, at least for their cost. Red and black ones are a bit cheaper, so there's some maybe, extra value. I think they're all going to struggle because the land comes in tapped, but it's cool that you can play the adventure and then immediately play it as a land, just as your land drop for turn. So some give and take there.
And sometimes you can just bring the lands back to hand and rinse repeat.
It's true.
Which can be a little interesting.
They were probably just a little scared of having channel lands 2 happen, like the channel lands from Neon Dynasty, Otawara, and Boseiju, especially Boseiju, being maybe a little bit too much power level wise. I'll say Boseiju in Modern is a very annoying card. It's a card that makes some like combo decks be able to get out from under lock pieces really easily, and for basically very little deck building costs. So they were maybe a bit worried about that when it comes to having an untapped land that also has a powerful spell on it. Unfortunately, a lot of these spells aren't very powerful, and they're on a tapped land.
So next one, the blue one, for 6 mana, target opponent mills half their library rounded down. So Mill's deck, no one really respects it, so I don't really think they're going to respect this card. Moving forward,
Commander players will love it.
They'll love anything.
Moving on.
The red one, for 3 mana at instant speed, create a 0/1 black wizard creature token with, whenever you cast a non-creature spell, this token deals 1 damage to each opponent. So out of all the 5, this is probably contending for the best. Worst case, you get a blocker, and even for like your Storm deck, that's isn't too bad. Just getting a...
I don't think for Storm it's going to be very good. Like, Storm's issue isn't killing the opponent. Storm's issue is like being able to get far enough along in your Storm turn. So if the spell like was like a ritual or an impulse thing that's also land, there's some value there. But we already have like Valakut Awakening that kind of does that. Yeah. I will say this wizard token is going to come up a few times. There's a few other cards that are also wizards. Modern Wizards is a real deck that sometimes rears its head. It keeps getting more and more cards. Eventually it's going to be enough to have like a wizard control, wizard tempo, some kind of is it build or something like that. Flame of Anor is a really powerful card that, especially depending on the meta, can carry a lot of weight. With Quarry Steelcutter on the rise in Prowess decks, going Flame of Anor with a wizard, destroy a Steelcutter, kill a Prowess creature. Like if you destroy like Steelcutter and Slickshot show off with one Flame of Anor, that's huge value. You're going to pull way ahead. More wizards to enable, that's always good.
Yeah, and worst case scenario, you get a blocker too. It's an interesting card.
Yeah, if you're playing that control deck, it's going to start whittling your opponent down. Join your Snapcasters in, picking away at that health total.
Yeah. Next one, the black one, 3 mana sorcery. You may sacrifice an artifact or creature. If you do, draw 2 cards. So this is your, Village Rites-esque effect on a land, which is very nice. This is probably one of the better ones. Problem though is black has a lot of really good utility lands, so kind of throwing that into the mix might not be his best. You have Spymaster's Vault, Phyrexian Tower.
Yeah. Phyrexian Tower.
Yeah.
If you care about sacrificing creatures, Phyrexian Tower is going to be crazy. And again, like at least where Modern's concerned, which is usually what we are talking about, the tap land is just going to be, it's just not enough upside for a tap land.
Yeah. Yeah, this is probably more like standard Pioneer speed, which is
maybe, but like both of those formats are getting run over by red aggro decks, so like do you have time to be playing these tap lands or these inefficient spells? No.
Yeah. But cool art though, so there's that.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, the set is some amazing art, so we'll get to see a lot of that this preview. And then for the last one, 6 mana, 2 green, create a 1/1 colorless hero token and then you put counter on it for each land you control. So 6 mana, usually will be 6 mana 7/7. If you got nothing else to do, ain't that bad, but the deck that me and you are thinking about that would get to 6 mana wants to cast something else instead.
Yeah, like Titan's not playing a card like this. You're gonna
Get like a 4/4.
you can cast this with
on a good day.
2 or 3 lands into play, and you'd rather just Titan, Scapeshift, Cultivator Colossus, Lumra, Aftermath Analyst. There's like a million things you'd rather do than this.
So next year when WotC gets back to banning Modern again, this could see some play then, maybe. And then we have the crystals. One of the first crystals we saw, the Darkness Crystal. So these are all 4 mana for some odd reason. They all reduce the respective color by 1, and they all have an activation for 6 mana. Which is pretty brutal for some of them, because a lot of these are just overcosted.
Yeah, all of these are just overcosted. Some of them have interesting extra effects, like the red one gives haste, and it does the like Kiki Jiki thing, but
you sacrifice
you'd
it?
just be better off playing Kiki Jiki, which is not a very good card in today's Magic, or Fable of the Mirror Breaker. Listen, Goblins never really was trying to cast Kiki Jiki. It's okay.
Yeah. I'd say out of all of them, the Darkness Crystal and the Water Crystal seem the most interesting. The Earth Crystal is kind of bad. It's the problem is you're not really casting green spells with counter matters decks. I.e. Brood Scale and or like Hardened Scales. Those are both mainly colorless creatures. Water Crystal I find interesting because I've been seeing a lot of talk about some like effects that say you mill 2, and if they like match type or color or whatever, you rinse repeat. So making it go from 2 to like 6 can really put those cards into playable positions. There are no Painter Servant archetypes, but it's a fun idea to play around with.
Yeah, like the problem with these will be 4 mana in most constructed formats are your bombs, your winning gameplays, your payoff cards, maybe a couple more mana beyond that sometimes. So like these as setup cards are going to be pretty bad. But if you have, like the Water Crystal, if you have like activated abilities in play that you can activate for not mana, and then mill your opponent a bunch or something like that, take advantage of it the second it comes down, maybe, but that's not typically what we see at a mill. These are going to be cool commander cards, and we might say that a lot. Looking at a lot of the card design, I wonder how much this was planned to be standard originally. Maybe that was a change that happened midway through development. These sets get planned like 2 years in advance typically. Yeah, this might not be the most impactful set overall, at least for standard, but it's a cool cycle, reminiscent of the medallions.
Yeah, same reduction too for twice the amount. We're now onto high interest cards, so these are ones we're thinking might see some play, might kind of crack open a deck wide open. And to start us off, we have Vivi Ornithur, so 1 blue and a red. I tried.
We're gonna get all of these names correct every time.
We are the Final Fantasy lore masters. We know everything.
Let us know in the comments about how well we pronounced all these names.
To our 12 viewers, I think. Hopefully 13 for this video.
Sean's gonna rip us a new one.
Might be too busy rating. Anyways, so it's at 0/3 for 3, but it has a 0 cost ability. Add X mana in any combination of blue and or red, where X is Vivi Ornithur's power. Activate only during your turn, only once each turn. Whenever you cast a non-creature spell, put a counter on Vivi, and it deals 1 damage to each opponent. This is a good prowess card, good storm card, just giving you a bunch of mana in Izzet to kind of refuel Vivi, and then sure you can get it once per turn, but kind of like 3 mana off Vivi, going like Expressive Iteration to like a Preordain, just getting her even more power and just having her swing in.
Yeah, going like spell, 0, get probably your mana back or close to it, keep going. It's pretty good.
Having every spell deal 1 more is like
it's a wizard for Flame of Anor. There have been some like very experimental storm builds that incorporate a little bit of like prowess and like Flame of Anor and stuff like this to be a little bit like more consistent, a little bit more grindy. If you fizzle, you just have a really big like prowess creature or like questing druid. You have Flame of Anor that can remove almost like most hate pieces, or draw you cards, or do both. Like Ral's already a wizard. This is a wizard if you want to play that. I think there's a prowess otter that's like a wizard, is a cost collector, stuff like that. So it gives a little bit more value to that kind of style of build. Also, like it says non-creature spell, importantly. So this could also be like you could do like an Izzet Saga wizard build with like Mox Opals and like Baubles and Dragon Rage Channeler maybe. Yeah, well, we can maybe get to that when we get to sagas, but yeah, like it potentially has a few different homes it could go in. It's a cool card to like brew around. Will it find its footing? We'll see, but a lot of potential, I think.
Yeah, it's 3 mana, so it's out of Fatal Push range. 1 spell gets it out of Bolt range and Discharge range. It's
the 3 toughness is a little scary on your 3-drop, but
like 1 spell, it's already fighting pretty well on the board, and making your Baubles do heinous things.
Yeah, makes your Baubles and stuff like this rituals.
Yeah, it's
your Mox Opal taps for 2.
It's a potential combo card too, which is like crazy. It's a very high potential card. I wouldn't be surprised to see it be played in like almost every format.
Yeah, it gives like Storm like alternate win con where they don't have to fully storm off, they can just start pinging you down. Don't have to get a full grape shot off. Like sometimes you main board 1 grape shot and you just go, I'm gonna grape shot you for 8, but all the triggers with this is gonna be lethal or something like that. Don't have to go all the way, which is especially helpful against things like Graveyard Hate. Like if you can't get your Past in Flames off, or you can't find one, or you don't have enough mana, having these kind of more just like, I'm gonna not quite get there, but deal a bunch of damage, this can maybe close out those games.
And then on to our next card, Noctis, Prince of Lucis. 1 mana, I don't know what that pairing is called. Esper.
1 in Esper.
Lore Master
Legendary Human Noble 4/3 lifelink, and you can cast artifact spells from your graveyard by paying 3 life in addition to their other costs. If you cast a spell this way, it has a finality counter on it, which means it's going to get exiled anytime it's going to go to the graveyard.
Yep, so key points to make is they are counters, so you can remove them through some shenanigans. 3 life seems like a lot, but getting those powerful artifacts in your bin back on the field.
Yeah. And he has lifelink, so like he'll be able to help pay for that a little bit if you can untap with him maybe. He
has potential. It's
maybe a little expensive, and again that 3 toughness in modern is always scary with Galvanic Discharge and Lightning Bolt.
Yeah, but getting a bunch of things back from the grave is always nice, and losing 3 life seems like a lot, but if you're playing artifacts, you're probably playing Saga. If you're playing Saga, you're probably playing Shadow Spear, and 1 hit from like a huge construct is just all that life didn't matter. You lost.
Yeah, so there's ways to shore it up.
Yeah. Next to the next card, Raubon, Bull of Ala Migo, 1 in a red, Human Warrior, 2/2, ward, pay life equal to Raubon's power. Whenever this creature attacks, Attach up to one target equipment you control to target attacking creature. So 2 mana 2/2 is pretty, uh, standard as it comes. The ward on it is very nice. Getting, one decent equipment on it can really make that ward kind of hexproof for it, essentially.
Yeah.
Keynotes is you can Arena of Glory this in immediately and just get that effect. Have it go to combat. Even if you have like a steel cutter, you can just attach that, give it haste, have it swing in. The hammer has been kind of seeing a bump and play game because it has gotten a lot of good stuff.
Yeah, like Hammer is a deck that keeps kind of incidentally picking up a thing here, a thing there. Something you don't see too often, but Assassin's Creed gave.
Yeah, Cyclist.
Yeah, there's
Spirit Leonidist.
yeah, and I forget, is it Alexandra?
I think
It's
it is.
the main character from
Yeah, the
Assassin's
Boros
Creed Odyssey. So there's already like some reasons to be in red in your typically white X
Yeah.
hammer decks.
And Steel Cutter, of course.
Yeah, Steel Cutter is such a phenomenal card. Like Prowse is having a lot of luck with it because it shores up the typical problem of they remove your creatures and you're dead in the water. Hammer's a deck that has that kind of issue as well. So Steel Cutter really helps with that. This guy's gonna hopefully probably add to those styles of builds. Is it gonna be enough to bring it, fully meta competitive? We'll see. It might be somewhat dependent on meta, like what other decks are good out there, like how well does this fare against your Eldrazi's and your Boros decks. But the ward pay life equal to his power, you can increase his power, if I'm not mistaken, before that trigger resolves.
Yeah.
So if you throw down a hammer with Sigarda's aid onto it in response to its trigger, suddenly your opponent has to pay 12 life, and they probably won't. Maybe they will. Like, you're probably happy either way, because they either waste a spell or they take a huge chunk of life. You always got to think about fetches and shocks in Modern as well. People typically deal, 5 damage to themselves already, plus 12. They're going to be super, super low, and all it takes is a couple Steel Cutter triggers and you're in there.
Yeah, and if it is like a lightning bolt or like a discharge, you can't have them pay the ward first and then put it on, because usually they won't pay it if it's not going to kill it.
It's true.
So getting that 2 extra damage on it is kind of nice to do. And then on to our next stuff. Before I do that, okay, we are recording. So we have starting town. This land enters tapped unless it's your first, second, or third turn of the game. Tap for a colorless or pay life, add 1 mana of any color. This card's kind of crazy in standard. This is kind of like a standard only card. This isn't really better than a fetch land, but getting a land that taps for any color at
Could
any
have
point.
some value in Pioneer as well.
Yeah. Those ones suffer a lot from no fetches.
Pioneer's mana bases are really, really tough. Especially right now, I'm seeing a lot of people kind of just do even just monocolor decks to kind of shore up that issue. It's hard to do more than 2 colors often in Pioneer. Obviously, there's your Incarnation decks and your Domain decks, but the best decks, at least right now, seem to be washing out with fewer colors. So this is something that can kind of help shore up that style of deck. Also, next standard rotation, we're losing
Pain lands?
all the pain lands and half the fast lands, if I'm not mistaken. So continuing to have good mana fixing in standard is going to be important. Paying life is a little rough in an aggro format, but you got to do what you got to do.
Yeah, and it's 3 turns, not 3 lands, so that can matter for some decks that
That's true.
like to put a lot of lands into play. Speaking of lands, we have the Wandering Minstrel, Simic 1/3. Lands you control enter tapped. Beginning your combat in your turn, if you control 5 or more towns, create a 2/2 elemental creature token that's all colorless. And then for 3 and 1 of each color, other creatures you control get +X/+X until end of turn, where X is the number of towns you control. The first 5 words really matter. The rest is kind of flavor text.
Yeah, there's probably not going to be a towns deck, at least not built out of a single set. If we get more towns down the road, there's a possibility. Like, Gates deck have been a thing in formats like Pioneer. Not so much anymore, but like with enough support, you can definitely get there. Typically, it takes blocks, which we don't have right now, and this is a one-off Universes
Yeah.
Beyond set, so that might be a bit tough. We might not see towns beyond this, but lands you control enter untapped. It's pretty relevant for a resident favorite Amulet
Yeah,
Titan.
we do love spelunking, and this is a fetchable spelunking with.
You can Pact for this, and you can Green Sun Zenith for this. Both cards that Titan often likes to play. In fact, they always play at least one of those.
Each. Yeah.
I would follow them too closely. I don't know if they're still hard on Green Sun Zenith, but Summer's Pact is always in there. This is maybe a reason to play Green Sun Zenith more if you aren't really playing it as much right now. Really just adds to your consistency a ton. Is it better than Spelunking? Probably not.
Yeah, you don't get to draw the card from it, but it comes into 1 mana sooner.
Easier to find. If Titan ever catches like an Amulet of Vigor ban or something like this, you'll play this
They
as
have
Spelunking,
so many
and
options.
you'll carry on as if nothing really changed.
Yeah, like they lose.
Urza Saga, I guess, comes out of the deck at that
Yeah.
point, but
You die less you hate that, I guess.
I mean, this is easier to kill than an Amulet is. Like creature removal is pretty relevant against Titan usually, so like
Of course,
it
this
makes
isn't a
some of that
0/4,
better.
which kind of sucks, but you know.
Yeah, it's this card's very killable, which is nice. So maybe Titan doesn't play that until the deck has fewer cards vying for spots, but it's something to be on your radar for a deck like that.
And then on to the next one, Tifa Lockhart. For 1 and a green, a 1/2 trample with landfall. For those who don't know, is whenever a land control enters, you double Tifa's power until end of turn. So a simple, +4 pump spell and a fetch land equals 20 power.
Yeah.
So red has a lot of aggro cards being put into formats. Green wanted it as well. I've always felt green has been kind of left on the wayside for a while.
Yeah, you have a lot of old pump spells and protection spells that like Infect in the past has
Yeah, like
played.
Heart of Corrosia just gets this there for 1 mana.
Yeah, it's not really made sense to play green in these kinds of decks, because typically the good decks are going to be more prowess oriented than Infect, which is a lot of red with some blue splashes. Maybe we play Teamer, or maybe we play an own kind of build like this. If you can't incorporate this into prowess, then this is probably not going to beat out or replace prowess.
Yeah.
But it's definitely going to be a fun card to build around. If you you can do the prowess thing of Violent Urge to give it double strike if you have Delirium. Maybe Monstrous Rage. Maybe Monstrous Rage in Standard or something like that. Probably not in
Yeah,
Modern
it's
still.
a +3 pump spell.
Yeah. But yeah, you just play your pump spells.
I mean, there's Overprotect, which is +4/+4, and then a whole suite of abilities.
Yeah, it doesn't take much. There's 1 mana +3 or +4/+4s, and then you get to
Like Evolving
If you're
Wild,
at
Fatal
5.
Passage.
if you're 5, you play Fetch Land. It's a 20 power creature, right?
Yeah, and you're
Get her to 5, trigger, double to 10, double to 20. Kind of scary.
It's for those control
scary.
players on the draw. Good luck.
Yeah, you have a generic pip to pay into with Arena of Glory, and send her screaming down at your opponent.
Yep. So that's just 2 mutagenic growths on turn.
True. Forgetting about Mutagenic Growth, of course, which
Sure.
Kraus is already playing.
Yeah.
So
You could play Halfling for a really weird cuck.
that'd be it makes her
Stomping Ground,
uncounterable.
Arena
Yeah,
of
it's
Glory.
interesting.
Then you take the red to get a pump spell on it. Mutagenic growth.
You're probably
Meow.
the colorless on the Halfling's probably going to be too bad
Yeah.
in the deck, but
No, it's not colorless for Halfling.
not for her, but most of
Oh.
your other spells, right? How consistent
we're
this is.
We're getting a little too deep into it, but we'll
But
see.
This card's scary. You're gonna probably die. Someone's gonna die to this once or twice.
Yeah, we'll
at
see the
very
Reddit
least.
post eventually.
I'm excited to see it.
Medium interest. Not as playable as the high interest cards, but we still might see him pop up here and there.
Speaking of hammer,
Yeah, so before we get into Cloud, there is a lot of double-sided cards in this set.
no,
So for this, I did my best. Some of the card will be covered just because I don't want to have to do like 2 cards every slide or have them super small.
yeah, you're gonna miss a little card art.
So this is what you get in a nice tone. Anywho,
What
Cloud,
you fucking deserve.
Cloud Midgar Mercenary, a white 2/1. Whatever Cloud enters, search your library for an equipped card, reveal it, put it in your hand, then shuffle. As long as Cloud is equipped, if an ability of Cloud or equipment attached to it triggers, that ability triggers an additional time. We do love tutoring in our formats, and this doesn't put it puts it to hand, which is very nice. There is a very important equipment going around standard and modern right now.
It has a triggered ability.
It does. It's probably not the best to double it, but
Yeah, you don't typically want to equip it to creatures, like...
you
we're
won't
talking
say
about
no to an
Steelcutter.
extra monk.
You want it to equip to itself. An extra monk is a lot.
But there is the Spear of Leonidas in modern that's
Yeah,
kind of seen play.
It's true.
Getting
This in standard will be on, not really, but again, hammer. Already wanting to play Steelcutter probably.
And
You'll be able to free equip it, which is what you're going to want to do to Cloud.
yeah, and
Two-
I mean
2 tokens is
Soon-
twice as many.
sooner or
It's
later
twice as many.
there will be more equipment that do something on or trigger.
It's true. Yeah, there's
So-
always cards down the line, but like Steel Cutter triggering once a turn is pretty potent already. Getting at least 1 double trigger is going to go a long way.
I mean 2/1 is a little bit rough for stats, but worst case scenario, he dies, he replace himself.
Yeah, it does the Stoneforge Mystic thing of you're happy if it lives, you're happy if it dies. Like it either eats a removal spell for you and you still have that equipment you want, or it's going to generate more value.
We now have Emmett Selk, Unsundered, 1 and a Demir for an Elder Wizard. Vigilance 2/4. Whenever he enters or attacks, draw a card, then start a card. At the beginning of your upkeep, if there are 14 or more cards in your graveyard, you may transform Emmett Selk. He flips into I don't really know because I covered the name. Vigilance, and during your turn, you may play cards from your graveyard. If a card or token will be put into your graveyard from anywhere, exile it instead. And it is a 6/6, which is pretty good stats.
Yeah.
So 3 mana, card fixing isn't that bad. 2/4 body's pretty good, especially for 3 mana.
Yeah, if
that
you're playing
dodges.
this, you're playing this. We keep talking about it right now with Prowess and Boros at the top of Modern. Tapping out turn 3 for something that just eats a 1 mana removal spell is going to be really rough.
It's a Youchers.
Fatal Push is also running around. Like they're still going to be able to get you with this. It's going to be a little bit harder, which is okay.
Yeah, and I mean Vigilance is really nice in the format.
Yes.
Getting a nice chunky blocker to sit around and just get you card selection, and eventually just flip into a ginormous 6/6 beater that lets you reuse your Fatal Pushes, reuse your Baubles, etc., to just fill your hand back up again.
Yeah, you might want to play this in like a Goryo's Vengeance deck maybe, and just like have this like looter that's also a creature that blocks,
And
and
then eventually just kills your opponent.
it's also a wizard. So typically
Grixis.
wizards has been but black is your most likely extra splash. Except I guess it's like white or black typically, because you might want to pick up like a Flage or something like that. Prismatic Ending can be pretty good in like a Steel Cutter format,
And then-
Frog format, these kinds of things.
Yeah, Arena Glory of Flage can't beat it.
No.
But who knows?
Flage can't beat it.
Yeah, unfortunately. Anyways, we have next card, Sephiroth, Fabled Soldier. The reason's capitalized for you lore masters out there, because that's an acronym, not an actual... He's also a soldier, so it's a... Anyways.
He's both
Yeah.
a soldier and a soldier.
Oh my god.
So
They really thought of anything for Final Fantasy VII. Anyways, 2 and a black, 3/3. Whenever he enters or attacks, you may sacrifice another creature. If you do, draw a card. Whenever another creature dies, not just yours, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. This is the 4th time this ability has resolved this turn. Transform Sephiroth. And then his flip side, a flying 5/5, Supernova. As this creature transforms into Sephiroth, one-winged angel, you get an emblem with whenever a creature dies, target opponent loses 1 life and you gain 1 life. And whenever he attacks, you can sacrifice any number of other creatures. If you do, draw that many cards. Boy golly gee, I love unearthing this thing into play turn 2.
Shame it's not a zombie. Obviously, that wouldn't make sense for Sephiroth, but
It's a good ability.
It's a Soul Trader card.
It's a Soul Trader card, it's a Samwise card, it's a Yawgmoth
True.
card. The classic problem is if you're getting to those 4 triggers, you've probably already killed your opponents.
Well, often on those 4 triggers, like, you're an outlet short,
Yeah.
and he is an outlet. He sacrifices things to dig you deeper. I think this is a pretty relevant card.
Also, 5/5 Flyer can get you there.
Yeah, if
This is
there's a lot of games, especially against those more controlling decks, where you're just whittling down the opponent because they're going to hard stop a lot of your combo attempts.
and just getting an emblem just says, I will will you down regardless of what you do to my
You
creatures.
can't remove my Zulaport Cutthroat, and here's a 5/5 to also deal with in the meantime.
I have taken to the table. Good luck with that.
Yeah, so if they stop that combo attempt, you might still flip this guy, get an emblem, stuff like that. And yeah, if you are doing those unearth builds like Soul Trader typically likes to do,
So
this is a
this
great
draws you
target
a
for that.
lot of cards sometimes.
Yeah, I'd like you can imagine like a nutty hand of like Stitcher Supplier, mill this,
Yeah, sack Stitcher
unearth it.
Supplier.
This enters, triggers, sack Stitcher Supplier, which you already want to do. You get to draw an extra card on top of milling all those cards. This is gonna be fun to play with.
Yeah.
This is gonna make the final cut. We'll see.
I will try it out. Don't you worry.
Yeah, it's gonna be fun.
Next we have Cecil Dark Knight, 1 black, Death Touch, 2/3. What are these stats? Whenever Cecil deals damage, you lose that much life. Then, if your life total is less than or equal to half your starting life total, Commander players, untap Cecil and transform it. Becomes a 4/4 lifelinker whenever it attacks. Other attacking creatures gain indestructible until end of turn. If you're playing black, this is a beautiful card to put in. Worst case scenario, you have a overstated 2/3 that, sure, it can eat a removal, but it's a 1-drop. And if it flips, it's just a 4/4 lifelinker for 1, which is crazy. Even, like, doesn't need to do combat damage. It's just, say, they swing in with, like, a bad board or whatever, like, as, say, like, Boris
Yeah,
usually
when he
does.
deals damage, when he blocks, when he gets blocked.
And protection for everything else is really nice.
Yeah, the somewhat like unfortunate thing, like the biggest downside here is if you ever end up trading when you're blocking or something like that, you're gonna lose.
Yeah.
You're gonna lose a bunch of life for that trade.
Also, really funny is you can just pump this up as well. And you can just have it deal 16 yourself and just kill your opponent with it. So I can't wait to do that in Sealed.
Yeah, like
This is like a
thankfully you're
perfect
only
Orzhov
losing
card.
2 damage at a time. Yeah, like the first thought is like Death Shadow, but like
This just kills your
probably
Death Shadows
yeah, it like just kills your Death Shadows later. So it's like, okay, that's maybe a little bit too complicated, and that deck's not very good. This card happens to be Orzhov, but also happens to probably make the most sense in that deck as
Yeah,
well.
Orzhov I think has been like really needing like 1-drops.
Yeah, well, I think like there are sometimes reasons to play Guide Pride, God of Souls and Ocelot
Yeah.
Pride in those style of decks,
And just getting,
rather than be like a Blink focused deck.
The only problem is like you never flip this thing.
I think this, well, like you will absolutely flip this thing. Like your opponent's removing your Guides and Prides. If you are triggering Guides and Pride a lot, you're winning. If you're not, and you're losing life, you're flipping this, and then this works really well with like Guide and Pride. Just being a cheap creature, the trigger guide, and be played, play your 1-drop on turn 1, play 2 1-drops on turn 2, like very reminiscent of like the Boros builds. So you might have like, is it going to be better than those decks? No, you don't have Flage, but it's getting those decks a little bit closer to the better versions of Orzhov. And then you have Ketramosta as another 4/4 with lifelink. So
We
you
do
have these ways
okay.
to shore up your life total. Also, Ketramos pings you down as you draw cards with it, which will help you flip this,
So by the time
and
you
then you
hit
start regaining again.
the flip side for both, they're usually
Your Orzhov's
Yeah.
decks tend to be grindier, so you tend to dip below half health and then regain back up with something like Ketramos. This adds to that.
This fits the curve for that kind of formula pretty well, actually. Kind of.
I was literally just playing a non-blink version of Orzhov last night with Guide and Pride. That felt pretty solid. So this is a tool for those kind of builds. So exciting stuff to play around with.
Yep. Next we have Traveling Chocobo, a 2 and a green bird. 3/2 may look at the top card of your library anytime. You may play lands and cast bird spells from the top of your library. If a land or bird you control enters the battlefield, causes a trigger ability of a permanent you control, trigger, that ability triggers an additional time. So we thought this would be a good Titan card. The only problem is if you're playing against a blue deck, you can get blown out really hard with this. Instead of getting those 2 bounce triggers, those 2 untapped triggers, you only get the 2 bounce triggers, and then you're just hitting yourself pretty hard. Especially if we have a Lotus Field.
Yeah, the deck is playing Lotus Field, which is kind of bad with this, or won't. Like, you're doubling the mana you get from it, you're doubling the number of lands you have to sacrifice. It's kind of similar with bounce lands, double the mana, double the bounce, which makes you all in on those turns. So like if the blue player counters your spell and you have like a pack trigger or something like this, or you just you just end up having no lands in play and pass the turn or something, it's gonna be really bad.
But I mean, playing from the top of your library isn't bad. This gets its
card advantage and mana advantage,
and sometimes it's just a beater.
But like, is it better than Dryad of the Elysian Grove, which lets you double play lands, like your bounce lands, which is kind of like doubling your amulet triggers, and it's a little less weak. It's harder to remove because it's a 2/4 instead of a 3/2. Card's cool though.
Worst case scenario,
Bird tribal.
Yeah.
Worst case.
And then next card from Father to Son, 1 and a white sorcery. Search your library for a vehicle card, reveal it, put it in your hand. If this spell was cast from a graveyard, put the card into the battlefield instead, then shuffle. So there is 2 cards that kind of let you recast pretty easily from your graveyard. One being Snapcaster. The other one we got is Teamer Songcrafter.
Yeah. Also,
there's the one from Brothers War.
Dreadhorde Arcanist, if you can pump its power by 1.
Yeah.
For
you
a
can
little
do
spice.
that. Yeah. I mean, and getting, like we saw, like
you don't have to cast this for a 7. It's built-in 7-minute flashback. Is the point.
But just getting it cast for 1 or 2 mana is very nice.
Yep.
Getting your Parhelion in, the one from Aether Drifts isn't too bad either. Just a 7/7 beater.
Yeah, you're still gonna have to crew them, but I mean, like a deck like Grease Fang, which had some popularity in Pioneer in the past. This is like a crazy bit of consistency for that.
Yeah, this does a Grease thing without putting it back into hand.
Yeah, it puts it into your hand. You want it in the graveyard, but
yeah,
a tutor is a tutor.
You're gonna have to jump through some hoops to get those vehicles out, but this might be a better hoop to jump through. And then next,
that's exactly what you want.
Yeah, Matoya, Archon Elder, 2/3 for a 1/4. Whenever you scry or surveil, draw a card. If you thought Preordained was good. Oh, it's not a wizard?
It's a warlock.
Oh my god. This is what happened with me in Soul Trader. Because that's a wizard. And seeing someone getting shoot the sheriff, oh my god, I lose myself in a madness. But turning your Preordained into a recall with Scry 2 is very nice. Turning your Surveil lands into Draw 1 is very nice.
Your Surveillance
Turning your DRC.
Your Considers Draw 2.
Turn your DRC into cast a non-creature spell. Draw a card.
Oh my god.
Hey, you know that Bobble card?
And it's not instead. You still get to scry.
Yeah, you scry. I want that card.
And it's got 4 toughness. We keep talking about lightning bolt killing your 3-drops. I don't think this sees play. I think if it's a wizard, it's a staple. I think because it's not, it just doesn't see play, which is, it's crazy how much a type line can change.
I mean, it's just that's so, like this has so much card draw to stapled onto it.
This is a crazy design for
It's
a card.
it's I don't know. It's
very
either
cool.
like insane or just you
I-
cast it, you don't do anything, opponent goes win, and you go. So it's just scry, man.
Yeah, it is very slow. I think it needed to be a wizard to be played in these, like, so you can play it in like a grindy blue deck. That's happy to be playing like Preordains and Considers because you're maybe also a Snapcaster deck.
But
It's so sad.
Ancestral
It's so
Recall,
sad.
man. Getting that in Modern,
So sad.
just ripping that scrying too. Anyways, before we,
Ponder
lose
who.
ourselves, Golbez Crystal Collector, Demir 1/4.
An actual wizard.
Yeah. Whenever an artifact control enters, surveil 1. When you have your end step, if you control 4 more artifacts, return target creature card from your graveyard to your hand. Then, if you control 8 or more artifacts, each opponent loses life equal to that card's power. So this is a roundabout kind of affinity card,
Yeah.
in a sense. Whenever you put an artifact, which, if you have a cookbook out, is pretty easy. Surveil 1 is very nice to, add to that loop.
Also, Emery's a wizard.
Yeah.
You can play like an artifact wizards deck pretty easily.
You can go like Grixis
if
Wizards,
you're-
Tamio,
I
Emery,
saw someone post a list
Golbez.
recently that with some of the saga changes in mind, with like Emery and Flame of Venor and in
Yeah,
it.
you're playing
This is something that could fit in
Amber
there.
and Mox Opal already.
Yeah, Mox Opal will help with getting that 3rd color in there.
Yeah, so I mean it's a pretty interesting card. Getting 8 artifacts is a little tough, and then getting a creature that can kill your opponent with enough power. Usually you're just gonna get back, your Emery again, or your Turtle, which is like just 4. But hey, sometimes you just throw in a random Eldrazi because you just want to kill someone for 12. So we'll see.
Getting to that 8's probably less realistic, but using it for everything else I think is pretty reasonable.
But I mean, card selection is truly a beautiful thing.
Yeah.
Ultima, Origin of Oblivion, 5 for a god, 4/4 flyer. Whenever it attacks, put a blight counter on target land. For as long as that land has a blight counter on it, it loses all land types and abilities, and has tap, add colorless. Whenever you tap a land for colorless, add an additional 1. Boy golly, this feels like an Eldrazi card.
You could say even like reminiscent to the other.
Spreading Seas?
No, I was thinking about like
there's
sowing
one.
micro
Yeah.
Microspawn. Like it is 1 more mana.
Doesn't remove the land, but
it will repeatedly ramp you. You do have to attack with it, but that I mean
Flyer.
a 5 mana 4/4 is kind of hard to remove.
and this comes out like turn 2 sometimes.
Yeah, like a
You have to
really
be
good
very,
hand
yeah,
to
it's
turn
like
2.
Labyrinth,
um,
Amulet, whatever it's called.
Talisman. Yeah.
And then another Labyrinth.
Yeah, something like that. This is really, really good in the full colorless builds. Typically, Eldrazi right now has been like a green build with like Utopia Sprawls and stuff like this. I don't think this card actually fits in those deck, funnily enough. I think it fits in the full colorless builds that sometimes people have been playing that haven't been as good, but the full colorless builds incorporate cards like the newest Ugin, which is very, very powerful, much better, because those decks are better off being like actual traditional Tron with the Tron land builds. This is another card that kind of fits that as well. Maybe a little bit win more with like a full set of Tron lands out, but it's 3
you're
extra
making,
mana.
yeah.
You want more lands that tap for colorless than maybe current Eldrazi plays, to really, really get value out of this. But I mean, it disrupts your opponent's mana pretty thoroughly. after 2 attacks, your opponent's going to be pretty constrained on
Yeah,
their
like
mana
getting
a
like
lot of the
Arena
time.
Glory off the board like immediately is very nice.
That too. So it's a good pickup for those Tron lovers, and someone who wants maybe something a little more interesting to think about than the kind of stock Eldrazi ramp.
We have Summon Brynhilder for 1 and a red, 2/1.
It's our first Saga creature.
Yeah, so first off, Chain. Exile the top card of your library. During any turn you put a lore counter on this Saga, you may play that card. And then Gestalt mode. When you next cast a creature spell this turn, it gains haste until end of turn. So 2 mana 2/1's a little bit tender. Thankfully, Bowmaster and Wrenn and 6 aren't seeing that much play in Modern. And
Bowmaster's definitely around. Boros is at the top of the format. The blue-black decks are definitely playing Bowmaster.
are they doing full 4?
It depends. Like it's always a meta call with Bowmaster. But if you're a deck that gets punished really hard by Bowmaster, or you're a deck trying to beat Boros Energy, it's definitely gonna find a spot in your deck.
Yeah, but I mean, worst case scenario, sometimes you like.
But
you
this
do
draws
it
a card when it
later
enters,
turn.
right?
It doesn't even draw it, 2 deck cells it. So
Yeah,
you get
which
around some
doesn't
stuff.
trigger Bowmaster. So it like if it said draw a card, this would be unplayable in Modern because of Bowmaster.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't, you're good.
And there is
Reminiscent of, was it Kumano?
faces the Storm
a
or
1 mana Saga from Diana Dynasty that gave like creatures haste and was kind of like a creature
It
saga.
was first one
really good
was deal
aggro
1,
card.
second one was give a counter, third one was I think just flip.
Yeah. Prowess in Modern's not trying to give its creatures haste because its creatures already have it. But the fact that this is an enchantment creature in like a deck that wants Delirium, that's
there was
really big.
one going around for a bit with like a fly trap. This
Right. Yeah.
you know this goes very well into a fly
Rule
trap, just giving it
Delirium.
haste turn 3 and then just going off.
World Delirium's something that's seen playing even standard as well.
Yeah, we have a card right
Same
beside
kind
it
of
that
cards.
really likes putting stuff into them.
But yeah, just a reminder, like, this is an enchantment creature. The second it comes down, it's not like one of those flips. It's kind of a new layout for Magic cards because we haven't seen in Saga creatures like this. But it's a creature the second it comes down, which is huge for Sagas. Pretty much all the Sagas, if not all of them in the set, are like that, which makes them a lot more playable than Sagas tend to be.
I will say
usually your Sagas you want it to like make a creature when it enters, so this is like that plus some.
Yeah, also, there is also a text box to it. Usually by the time you read to the third point, you kind of like, I can't do anymore. So they do have some abilities. They're all not just flavor text. So do remember that. Also, there is cards like Hex Parasite where you can just remove them and just
Keep it around.
triggering the first step every like turn, just getting more and more card
Or just
advantage.
give all your creatures haste. Keep doing
Yeah.
that. Something to note, with the release of the set, they're doing some Saga rules updates. The most important one is if your Sagas are to lose their chapter abilities, they're no longer forced to be sacrificed by state-based actions. In the past, Sagas have worked where if the number of lore counters on it are greater or equal to the number of chapter abilities, that's when it goes, so assuming it's still a Saga. So cards like, say, Dress Down that remove abilities from creatures, or like
Urza Saga.
We'll get there. Something like Tishana's Tiebinder that stops the trigger and then remove creatures' abilities aren't going to kill your Saga creatures like they would have before that rule change. Notably for a lot of competitive interactions, this means that Urza Saga is no longer going to get killed by cards like Blood Moon, Harbinger of the Seas, stuff like this. And in fact, a very specific ruling there, because Urza Saga is granting abilities with its triggers, those granted abilities don't get removed by Blood Moon. So if it could tap for a colorless or make a construct, it's still going to have that ability. It's going to stop ticking up, but it's still going to be in play. So moving forward, you can play Blood Moon in your Urza Saga decks. You can have your Urza Saga tap for a colorless and a red when that's in play, and you can even keep it around indefinitely until it or Blood Moon gets removed, with the ability to make constructs. So you can sit there for the rest of the game making constructs. So when we're talking about these wizard builds, these artifact builds, these wizard artifact builds, you can play Blood Moon. Like a lot of these decks were already splashing red or playing red. You can now play Blood Moon, which is huge for either your sideboard or even your main board.
This hits two of like the strongest decks right now, which is Eldrazi and Titan,
Yes.
which is a little interesting.
Yeah, so that's a lot of power there. It is a quiet buff to Urza's Saga, which is hard for a lot of fair decks to deal with, and decks like Izzet and Dimir were using Blood Moon and Harbinger as a big way to deal with that. You can't do that anymore, which is going to be tough. But there's also no best Urza Saga deck right now, really.
Yeah, I think we're like the only one we've had.
We got some room right now.
Yeah, it'll be interesting. But back to Final Fantasy cards.
Yes.
We have Diamond Weapon. This isn't from the Minecraft Secret Lair that's yet to come out. This is 7 green for a legendary artifact creature. Elemental, which can matter sometimes. 8/8. This will cost 1 less for each permanent card in your graveyard. It has reach. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt to Diamond Weapon. This is a huge beater. We've seen a lot of cards in the past get reduced by either your artifacts in the bin, your creatures in the bin, or creatures in your exile. This does it all with probably one of the best bodies we've had for it. And this doesn't die to combat damage, which is very huge. And
yeah,
8/8,
you can't like triple or quadruple block it to get rid of it.
and
It's just gonna keep coming.
Yeah, it's an artifact too, which can matter, and it can hit real hard, real fast.
Could be fun to play in your Squirming Emergence, like standard brews.
Yep. Or say your Jund Delirium deck, just getting your 6 permanents, Arena of Glory it out, getting a Detective's Phoenix on it, and just swinging for 10. This also fuels Detective's Phoenix just super easily too, which is really nice.
Fuels Delirium as an artifact creature.
It's a truly beautiful box of joy for
Max and no one else.
That's the way I like it. On to the next card. Rydia, Summoner of Mist, Gruul,
Boy.
Human Shaman 1/2, Landfall. Whenever land you control enters, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. Summon, so X and a tap, return target card with mana value X from your graveyard to the battlefield with a finale counter on it. It gains haste until end of turn, activate only as a sorcery.
There's only one saga you're bringing back with this, and it's Urza Saga. You only can do it once per saga, which is fair.
Yeah.
This is better than
If you
Red and 6 for that.
remove the counter, though, that's
Hard to say. If you can play Jund with Hex Parasite if you really want to. Keep your sagas around a lot longer,
and
or be able
landfall is
to
very important too.
return them often. And the landfall, discard a card, draw a card. It sucks that it's rummage instead of looting. You always like to draw the card first if you can. But for your Jund Delirium decks, incorporating Urza Saga, which is great for Delirium. It's 2 types. It puts itself in the graveyard often. This is a really powerful card.
And you can also just put it in turn 3. Put another different land in, discard the Saga, draw a card, put the Saga in with this, and you've just ramped yourself for 0 mana.
Haste it with Arena of Glory.
It's a beautiful time. On to the next ones. Low interest. These are cards that might not see that much play, but they have some potential. To start us off, the all-timers, Old Man in the Back, Dark Confidant, 1 and a black, 2/1. Beginning of your upkeep, reveal the top card of your library. Put that card into your hand. You lose life equal to its mana value. Oh, the places this has been.
Standard legal, and maybe more interestingly, Pioneer legal now.
So this card back in the day was a haymaker. Now it will sit idly by as a mice tears you apart. Turn 3 because you only casted this on your 2nd turn. But hey, there's some 50-year-old man who will go back to Standard and give his $10 for entry to the 20-year-old Zoomer who just plows right through him. And that isn't the message of Magic. I don't know what is.
And that's what we like in our older Magic formats. That's the way we like to live. I'm casting Lightning and my opponent's casting the One Ring. You know, it's just how some of us like to live.
It's a beautiful time. Buster Sword, 3 mana. Equipped creature gets +3/+2. Equip 2. Whenever a equipped creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card. You may cast a spell from your hand with mana value less than or equal to that damage without paying its mana cost. Oh boy, what a load of text. Which usually means if this hits, you should probably have killed your opponent by then. But hey,
It's gonna do a pretty close approximation to killing your opponent. You're gonna draw a card. You're gonna cast something for free.
I mean, the problem is there's
maybe one of in hammer decks.
There's no evasion on this. Is like the main problem.
Yeah, but
and it's
I mean,
equip 3, which
you're
is
gonna hold up mana. You're gonna attack. You're gonna have Sigarda's Aid in play. Your opponent's gonna be like, I'm not falling for that. They're not gonna block, and then you're gonna still get them good.
Or you can put the hammer on it, and you can kill your.
And that will be a problem. But like with cards like Corey Steelcutter or the Spear of Leonidas, that's what it is, right? The Spear of Leonidas. Hammer can move in a direction of being a little less high variance kind of combo aggro to something with a little bit maybe more consistency, a little bit more value oriented cards, that maybe it's just the better way to do it in a particular meta. Maybe it's not. Maybe this is a one-of tutor target for your increasing number of tutors like Cloud. Maybe this is a cyborg card. Maybe this is nothing and you play it in your equipment deck in Commander, which would definitely be really good in.
Yeah.
Definitely really good in Commander.
Time will tell, unfortunately, for this card.
The Hammer players are going to have some fun this set. That's the message there.
Next one, Lightning, Army of 1, 1 in a Boros, First Strike, Trample, Lifelink, 3/2, with the ability Stagger. Whenever Lightning deals combat damage to a player, till your next turn, if a source would deal damage to that player or a permanent that player controls, it deals double that damage instead.
It having First Strike means it's hitting before your normal creatures, doubling all their damage.
Yeah. Boros has kind of having trouble finding that 3-drop spot. Having
a lot of competing 3-drops depending on
having
what
this,
you're showing up against.
Arena of Glorying this in, swinging, and then saying how like a Goblin Bombardment after and just throwing everything for 2 damage can really shut down an opponent. Having your Johnny,
it's any source, right?
Yeah.
So it's double damage on the bombardment as well.
Yeah. So you swing with lightning, it hits in, you bombardment, and then you deal 5 damage for 3, which is pretty good. Or just sometimes you just have a Johnny and you just go, is it 0?
Yeah.
I'm gonna 0. 10.
Double that damage. Yeah. If Boros is looking to get more aggressive, I think this is a really, really good card for Boros. I'm maybe a little bit higher on this than Max is.
I looked at First Strike and like, oh, wait a second, it's a lot better. So
yeah, again, it depends on what your matchups are looking like. Boros is ultimately a deck that is sometimes the beatdown and sometimes the grindy mid-range deck. So how often are you one versus the other might be the difference between this and like Fable of the Mirror Breaker, which is pretty common.
The also problem is fetch lands is a pay life thing, so you don't make them take 2.
Yeah,
shock lands
you're not gonna
isn't going to be dealing 4.
Yourself with that,
which would be that would be.
But it's only on your turn anyway, so your opponent would just fetch.
No, until your next turn.
Oh, until your next turn. Oh my god.
Whew.
That's interesting.
So, I mean...
I don't know how relevant that... I mean, that's relevant for your Goblin Bombardments, like, fighting for board space.
Yeah, they play, like a frog. You go, how many cats do you want this to eat?
Yeah.
Interesting, though. I will be interested to see where it shows up.
I think that's really good for Boros.
Ninja's Blade. 2 in a black, job select. This is a new ability. Whenever an equipment comes down that has this ability, you make a 1/1 white hero token, and you equip it to it. Equipped creature gets +1/+1 is a ninja in addition to its other type, and has, whenever this creature deals combat damage to a player, draw a card, then discard a card. That player loses life equal to the discarded card's mana value. So, This is a very interesting card. There's no evasion on it, which is a little unfortunate. But if you're playing something like this, which is, usually going to play a lot of small, sneaky guys, equip it to it.
There are ninja synergies out there. Demir's played the new ninjutsu Kaito. Is it Bane of Nightmares?
Yeah.
Kaito, Bane of Nightmares.
And then,
which
all ninjas get +1/+1.
Yeah, emblems that give your ninjas +1/+1. It's also just cool, like, job select is a cool, like, a keyword for this set where your equipment are going to come into play attached to a 1/1, which just makes equipment better. Usually its weakness is that it's really expensive to get equipped onto something. You don't have to worry about that with this. That's why Corey Steelcutter's good, or part of why because it equips itself. You're not usually paying that too. This, obviously, past that first creature you have to, but I mean, it's a 2/2 with extra text, and then you still have that equipment if it dies.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see if it pops up anywhere. We have Clive's Hideaway with Hideaway 4. What is Hideaway, Tyler?
When the land enters, in this case, you look at that many cards off the top of your deck, you exile one of them face down, and then at a later time you can cast it for free, depending on the card. Or you could play the card for free, so if it's a land, you can still play those as well. In this case, the land taps for a colorless, or pay 2 and tap. You can play the exile card without paying mana cost, but only if you control 4 or more legendary creatures. That's too many legendary creatures for this to be very good, but
maybe in the
hideaways
future
can be good. Sometimes.
There's always a chance we get like a 2 mana legendary that makes another legendary,
Like a legendary creature token or something like that.
Yeah, like there's its potential. Hideaway is once again a very powerful mechanic.
Free casting cards is good.
You've been playing a Hideaway here and there.
Yeah, I've played a little bit of
Boros, or is it just mono white?
It's usually white, and then you play the white Hideaway land, Windburst Kites, and Collector's Cage, and you can free cast things like Emrakul, the Aeon's Torn, which typically just wins the game when you do that, for 0 mana.
So we'll probably see this more in the draft, but who knows? It could pop up in Modern.
Yeah, this could be very good in the draft, if you draft enough legendary creatures, though it tapping for a colorless and having lots of legendary creatures at the same time has a lot of tension to it. Legendaries are going to be pit heavy and across a lot of different colors.
I know, on the bright side, it doesn't come in tapped, so you can play this last. But, anywho's, on the next one, we have Sarah Farron for 1 green and a white. 2/2. The first legendary creature spell you cast each turn costs 2 less to cast. So you won't get it the first turn, I think, because you already cast a legendary.
Yeah, because it looks at your whole turn. So that is a pretty big downside to the card, that you can't like play it and like do some combo off or or double spell really quickly off of it.
But if you do have the 2 legendaries already, this flips immediately on the beginning of your combat. If you control 2 or more other legendaries, you may transform. It becomes a legendary artifact. The first legendary creature spell you cast is 2 less. And legendary creatures you control get +2/+2. So this is a very reminiscent of Flowering of the White Tree. So 1 mana more, and 1 has to be green instead.
But it's a creature.
It's a creature.
Which is a lot better.
And then getting that reduction, having this flip immediately so it doesn't die, and giving all your legendaries +2/+2 is pretty good. And making a first legendary cost 2 less is very nice. There's been some very little amounts of like a Boros legendary matters kind of deck, so you can go maybe Naya. It's interesting. I don't think there's enough good 1 or 2 drops to really push this.
Something might eventually come together in like a Pioneer or something. Or
every set we're getting
a
more
Humans legendary deck where you can play good mana fixers, that the tribal mana fixers like Cavern of Souls and Secluded Courtyard. Is that am I thinking the right one?
And then there's one Dominator United.
Right, yeah, for legendary specifically. Plaza of Heroes.
Yeah,
is that what you're thinking? So
and there's
if you
for
can,
this too.
If you yeah, exactly. So if you can maybe mix some of those in there, you could have a pretty good legendary
And
tribal
fun fact, we
deck.
get new legendaries every set.
Yeah, there's always room for more.
So we'll
It's
see.
always a weird archetype, but a potential always.
Cards with potential, so these are probably a little too crazy to see where they end up, but we're hoping nonetheless. So for these ones, same thing, they flip over, but they're enchantments on the flip side, so to kind of move it around. So first one is for Origins. 1 and a green, sorcery use for Veil 2, gain 2 life. If this spell was cast from a graveyard, exile it, then put it into the battlefield transformed under its owner's control with the finality counter on it. Flashback for 4. So first part is you reveal the top of your library if it's a permanent card, put into hand. You add 2 green for the second, and for the last one, other creatures you control get +2/+2 and gain trample until end of turn. It's a 4/4.
Probably would have had to draw cards to be all that playable, because it's kind of like this trippy thing. In Modern, it's fighting over like things like Malevolent Rumble and Dredger's Insight, which do actually draw you the card, and they look at more cards, and they fill your graveyard better.
But I mean, if
It's a cool design space, though.
and I mean, taking the 3+ turns probably to get to the last step.
Yeah,
Can
after
do.
having to invest 6 mana in it often.
It's clunky, but sometimes clunky can get you there. I don't know about this one. On to the next one, though. Eject, Reluctant Guardian. So 3 and a black, Human Warrior, Menace 4/3. Whenever Eject deals combat damage to a player, you may exile it, then return to the battlefield transformed under its owner control. So for its 1 and 2, each opponent discards a card, and you draw a card. And then for the last one, each opponent sacrifices 2 creatures of their choice. It is a Menace 7/7. So
It's going to kill your opponent.
it will kill your opponents. Key notes is it exiles itself and then it flips. So your Goryo's Vengeance, your what's the skeleton guy?
Oh, Emperor Bones.
Emperor Bones. They throw this in, it hits, it comes back. Bada bing, bada boom. There's no downside to it because it exiles. And then those decks are also playing.
That's actually a good thought. I was like, 4 mana is a lot, but yeah, Gori isn't. But
Yeah, and then
it's got the haste and menace thing.
if you're playing Emperor Bones, you might have a Hex Parasite in there. And your opponent's probably not going to enjoy sacrificing 2 creatures of their choice every turn. So I think this card could kind of...
Oh, it's just the last one that it's the 2 creatures, right?
Yeah, so... I mean,
But you'll have a 7/7.
and they're bleeding cards
They're
every
gonna-
turn for it.
Yeah, it's kind of +2 cards because your opponent's -1, you're +1. And then, yeah, you have the 7/7 that's a pretty big threat.
It's...
Cool
we
card.
could see it... Yeah, we could see it play. It's probably... It could be like a 1-of in those
Some-
Emperor Bones decks.
Something also to note with these cards that say they exile themselves, one, it turns on Revolt for Fatal Push, which is like...
Pretty big sometimes.
Yeah, it's not something that's like makes a card worth playing, but it is useful upside. It's a good thing to know when you're playing these cards, because if you're playing this card, you're probably playing Fatal Push. Also, it will trigger Ketramos. As long as it's your turn, of course,
Mhm.
but
Usually you're gonna do that stuff on your turn.
yeah. Yeah, if your card exiles itself,
Yeah,
you
so...
also get a card draw if Ketramos is in play, which is not nothing.
On to the next one. Mechanist Arsenal, so 4 and a white. It has job select with the actual text, which is nice. So you make the 1/1 colorless hero creature token, then attach it to it. Equipped creature gets +2/+2 for each artifact you control, and is an artificer in addition to its other types. And it has equipped 4. So some key notes is this is a skull plate. Is it called?
Cranial plating?
Cranial plating. That gives toughness as well.
+2/+2 and so +1/+0.
So this is a making any creature you want into a super buff construct is very nice.
It's very expensive, unfortunately.
That is true. There is a refurbishing bay we got from Aether Drift. A lot of the affinity cards is you either have increments of 4 or increments of 7.
right.
Frogmite is 4. The 3 and a blue from Aether Drift we just got.
Right.
Yada yada.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, the signposts are 3 mana. I have been staring at those for a while. I was like, oh my god, signposts are 4. This is beautiful. Checked. They have not changed since I last checked. They're actually 3.
Yeah.
So that kind of hurt me a little
I keep
bit.
hoping that they're 4 mana.
But
hey, you can Stoneforge this into play.
yeah, Stoneforge, and then of course Refurbishing Bay. That's always a card that will,
Find a way to cheat into play.
lurk around, the
It's pretty
corners.
big.
But we will see.
The Artificer type doesn't matter.
Yeah. Anyways, you want to talk about this card, buddy?
Gyat, King of the Dwarves.
Yeah, damn.
Cost 4 rows for a 1/1 with double strike. He's a dwarf noble. When Hammer, another dwarf you control enters, and whenever an equipment you control enters, you may discard a card. If you do, draw a card. It's probably worse than the Hammer's other alternatives, and Dwarf Tribal does not matter anywhere except CDH, where it has to be mono red for Magda. I don't really want to talk about it.
Alright, so
This would be really, really good if it was
a
not
1-2.
white.
If it was a 1-2, that'd be.
This would be really, really good in Magda if it was double red or 1 in a red. Like, really, really good.
Yeah. So of course with these far kind of puddles of cards, tribes.
It'd be a 2/1 with Magda in play.
I think would be
and have double strike.
that'd be a menace. But
Like, that doesn't get blocked out almost ever.
as Tyler is saying, there is strong dwarfs. This probably isn't the needle to break the camel's back, but the more sets we get, eventually we'll get more dwarfs. And hey, maybe a couple years down the
You don't
line.
have to cope for me. It's okay.
Anyways, on to my coping. Van Street Thief, not a rogue by the way, 2 in a red for a 2/2. Whenever one or more scouts, pirates, and/or rogues you control deals combat damage to a player, exile the top card of that player's library. You may cast it. If you don't, create a treasure token.
We fixed Ragvan.
Whenever you cast a spell you don't own, put a 1/1 counter on each scout, pirate, and rogue you control. So much like Gyat, these 3 tribes are very sparse in the good cards they have, but once again, they have very good abilities. Rogues, I feel, is probably one of the more... Rogues and pirates are very close to kind of cracking through and getting enough presence to actually have like a competitive deck. This, unfortunately, picked the worst out of the 3 as a creature type, but they all can't be slam dunks, and this could see play in the future hopefully. Under the next one, random encounter. So 4 red, shuffle your library, then you mill 4 cards, put each creature card milled this way onto the battlefield. They gain haste. Beginning the next end step, return those creatures to their owner's hands. So this is a lot of mana, but in the right deck, this can put 2 or 3 huge beaters in.
There's unfortunately no way to make sure you hit something, which
Unless
is
you stack your deck.
ultimately what's going to be bad. Unless you do a paper only play, like palming something to the top of the deck when you shuffle. But unless you're playing, say, like the Pro Tour, it's probably not a valid strategy. But if it's the Pro Tour, worst case you get caught and get invited back to the next one anyways.
Truly a perfect competitive format we have. But hey, this could see play maybe. Who knows? Valkyrie aerial unit, 5 blue, affinity for artifacts, flying, 5/4 whenever this creature enters Surveil 2. Affinity for artifacts is always lurking in the back for standard as well as for modern.
It's always scary when something can be 2 mana for a 7 mana card.
Yeah.
Probably still worse than Thought Monitor in this case.
Yeah, but it's once again another Thought Monitor. It's a 5/4, so this
bigger.
can kill a lot faster. This is a
Reminiscent of Murktide, where you
It's
get a
your-
2 mana big flying creature.
and you have to exile from the graveyard.
Yeah, you just
You
have
know.
to have permanence in play, which you already want to do.
And this lets you stabilize a lot better if you have like a Shadow Spear out, just getting 6 life every turn. So
Good luck reading this next one.
yeah, stolen uniform, 1 blue, instant. Choose target creature you control and target equipment. Gain control of that equipment until end of turn. Attach it to the chosen creature. When you lose control of that equipment this turn. If it's attached to a creature you control, unattach it.
Yeah.
So honestly, you don't really care for your opponent's equipments. This is just a 1 mana instant speed. I want my hammer back on this creature,
Yeah.
and it's not leaving.
There are, I think, already cards in better colors that do this, because I think there's a red 1 mana I think it's a 1 mana instant. It's one red mana.
Magnetic something?
Yeah, it's magnetic theft, I want to say.
Yeah.
So I think there's already stuff like this for
But
like
in standard
modern.
there isn't, which is kind of important.
That's true. Like standard, pioneer, probably don't have access to that card. I'm not sure off the top of my head, but this is an
It's
effect that's
very unique effect we haven't
sometimes good.
seen in a while.
Yeah, it's been a long time since they printed something like this. At least at like
Yeah.
1 mana instant. It's hard to go wrong with that kind of cost in typing.
Worst case scenario, it's very interesting.
It's gonna be a fun
Combat
gotcha
trick.
now and again. Yeah.
Go-Go, Master of Mimicry, 2 in a blue, 2/4, XX tap, copy target activated or trigger ability, control X times. You may choose new targets for the copies. This ability can't be copied, and X can't be 0. So this is a combo card, if you can believe it. So there's a lot of effects that say untap everything. You can leave your ends up. Even if we've got unstoppable plants and Aether Drift for 3. This is also for 3. So getting your unstoppable plant in turn, having that trigger go on the stack, copying with Go-Go. Go-Go untaps and say like all your artifacts do. Do it again, get you do infinite loop, and then you have infinite mana, yada yada yada. Hopefully you win the game. Or if not, you're probably running the clock. But it's an interesting ability. It's also a wizard, which probably doesn't matter as much for the kind of game plan this is presenting. But hey, more combos is always a fun thing, I think.
It's a wizard. You get to do 2 Flame of Fedora abilities.
Do you?
Yeah.
Oh, Flame was a trigger?
Well, no, it's a choose.
Oh, okay.
But it's a wizard, so you get to choose 2.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Flame War, baby.
I just see wizard. I'm like, is the rest of this card playable? Probably not.
Bird up.
Sad. A lot of birds going around in this set. Right.
We got some heavy hitters actually for this. So Bartz and Boko, 3 green 4/3. Affinity for birds, first time we've ever seen that printed on a card, I think. When this enters, each other bird you control deals damage equal to its power to target creature and opponent controls. So this, if you're doing birds, this usually costs 2. And
that will end the game.
yeah, just clearing your opponent's board out. I don't think most birds have very high power, unfortunately. They're more tough.
We don't have bird support for any of this.
We have next card, Choco, Seeker of Paradise. 1 green, white, blue for 3/5. Whenever one or more birds control attack, look at that many cards from the top of your library. You may put one of them into your hand, then put any number of land cards from among them on the battlefield, tapped, and the rest into your graveyard. Whenever land control enters, Choco gets +1 to land of turn.
Yeah, that landfall ability seems to be a Choco bird thing.
Mm-hmm.
So there's some token ones, like say on this side quest, raise a Chocobo.
Mm-hmm.
That creates a 2/2 bird with that landfall ability.
You have 4 more birds, flip it, becomes a 2/2, and whenever it enters, you look for a land card, not even a basic, put it onto the battlefield, tap, then shuffle.
Pretty good.
Whenever a land control enters, birds you control get +1 to end a turn, which
Yeah.
can be pretty brutal.
That could be enough birds for that to be a major
Is there
deck,
like...
but
There might be like a land that targets birds specifically.
no, like I don't think Swarmyard does
There's
birds.
Swarm Yards and another one, I think.
There might be a bird one, I guess.
Yeah.
Swarmyard does like critters, rats, squirrels, insects, spiders, I want to say.
Critters from Strixhaven are going to be coming back. That would be awesome. Anywho.
Pests. Yeah, give me more pests.
Dude,
I love pests.
Black's my beloved.
Witherbloom is where I belong.
Yeah, so probably not playing for Choco, but Bartz and Boko and the side quest seem pretty strong. And if there's enough birds to make it happen in green and an additional color, Who knows?
Can play it in Bant now.
Yeah.
You got a Bant Bird Commander.
Those people who needed it for some reason. My pickups. Surprise, it's Sephiroth. I like Soul Trader. This card goes in Soul Trader. I'm slamming it in there. Midgar, surprise. I like
Soul
sacking.
Trader.
I like Soul Trader. This card is a 1 of in Soul Trader, so I only can buy 1. It's going in there. Summon Brynhilder. I like Jund. This is probably going in Jund. I'm putting it in
Delirium.
I'm putting it in Jund and or Jund Delirium.
Giving your Flytrap.
Yeah.
It's Flytrap, right? Giving Flytrap haste.
Yeah, we also got Faithless Looting. So
on curve. Yeah.
Oh.
Pretty easy to get Delirium quickly.
Yeah, I was like testing some hands. Not even getting like the 6 types, just getting the 4 one for like the initial Delirium. It's just 6 coming in immediately, which is awesome.
Yeah, and just
6 or you put like counter on this as well.
Incidental like enchantments and stuff like that. More good cards that are multiple
like
types
Bauble,
to get to 6
Faithless Looting.
types.
Card can go nuts.
Real quick.
Okay, it's safe. Awesome.
And yeah, I'm definitely happy to play grind your black decks. I think if he lands anywhere, Cecil is going to end up there. Probably like we were talking about black-white. Another cool black card, Resentful Revelation, that we haven't talked about yet. Does kind of like that blue impulse thing. Unfortunately, a sorcery. I really always lament when it's not an instant.
Yeah.
But you look at 3 cards, put 1 to your hand, the rest in your graveyard. It has a flashback cost you're probably never paying because it's 7 mana.
I remember I showed this to Tyler. He went, "Oh, what's this?" Just because it's mono black, costs a lot of mana, doesn't mean it's automatically a Coffer's card. Look where it ended up.
It's not a Coffer's card because you'd rather play Profane Tutor or like Night's Whisper that draws 2 cards because you want actual card advantage. This you want in something that you're filling the graveyard. So this could be
Jund Delirium.
Corio's card. It's probably worse than playing Philology Archaeologist or like even just Psychic Frog. So probably not enough room there, or like one of the loot spells. But it is a common. So this could actually be really good in like a Reanimator deck in Pauper, which I wouldn't mind playing. And then last we got Opera Love Song, 1 in a red. It is an instant, thank God. Choose 1, exile 2 cards from the top of your library. You can play those cards till your next end step. It's interesting that this isn't till like the next end step, which is nice, like Questing Druid's Adventure is. So you can play it on your opponent's turn, cast an instant to interact or something, and then have cards on your turn. And then your other mode is 1 or 2 target creatures get +2 power till end of turn. This is so close to being a Storm card. That second option just doesn't do anything in Storm unless maybe those Prowess builds get better.
Or you put like BV in there.
Yeah, or like something with like exactly with the new Wizard VV.
Yeah, because you like Medallion out turn 2, turn 3, you go VV. This VV's
it gives
3 power.
Yeah, it becomes like a bad ritual that adds to your Storm. But Prowess might actually like this because it can be a pump spell to finisher. The fact that it gives 2 target creatures a pump is actually really good. It means that this spell doesn't get fizzled like other pump spells can get, unless they kill both creatures, in which case you're probably losing anyways. But if you're worried about 2 removal spells, you're not casting it for that mode, you're going to cast it for the first one, get some card advantage. It's going to help you trigger Steel Cutter. You want these kind of cantrippy cards to keep triggering Steel Cutter, be able to top deck things like Preordain, Expressive Iteration, and this to keep the Steel Cutter train going. This even maybe helps you trigger Steel Cutter on your opponent's turn and then your turn, because you cast this and a spell off that, and then you have still an extra card to keep going. I don't know if there's room for this in a deck like that, but it's something to pick up, it's something to try. It's an uncommon. It's not going to cost you anything to at least try it.
So that ends our beautiful preview video for you guys. I hope you enjoyed it as much as we did. Once again, if you have any desire to buy these cards or any other cards that we didn't show, head over to Mecha Games, the website or the store, to pick them up. Hopefully we see you next set review for a Magic set, not a Universe Beyond set. And then after
Yeah, it's
that,
what, space opera
yeah,
with Tezzeret?
Tezzeret and spaceships that kind of just popped out of nowhere.
I don't know. Sounds fun to me.
It sounds
Like a
fun.
space jammer.
I like reading the story. I'm probably not gonna like reading
Not gonna
that
have fun
story.
with that.
But
That's
hey, welcome to Magic 2025, baby.
Whatever gets me closer to Lorwyn and Strixhaven.
All right. Thank you for your time. Have a good one.